other manufacturing to Janesville. I think we kind of talked about that with, I think the green energy, green renewable energy, green economy, infrastructure, manufacturing. We have to continue to attract new plants to our communities, and the way we do that is we invest in education, we invest in the infrastructure in that area to make it attractive to corporations to run their businesses out of here by having new and improved roads, bridges, wider roads, better schools, better parks, so they have great quality of life. I think those are the type of things we need to focus on to attract those businesses.
I have a follow-up.
Yes.
You mentioned education a couple of times. The federal government's involvement, at least financially, in education is relatively small. And I'm just curious as to what you feel now there's obviously more federal involvement in things like standards and that kind of stuff, Common Core, that kind of thing being suggested now. But what do you think the federal government's role should be in education? And how would you do that?
Great question, and I can tell you what I would advocate for, because obviously if you're one of 435 members in the House, you don't get to decide everything and just make it happen. But the things that I believe in, the things that I would advocate for is, I believe anybody who wants to go to college should have that opportunity and not come out with amount of debt burden them. I believe that we have an obligation to educate our society, and that includes a free college education, as long as you are willing to work hard to get the grades to earn that. That's the way other countries do it. It's the way my wife was educated in Germany. You don't come out of school with debt. If you work hard and go to school and get the grades, your education's paid for. I think we would be a much better society if we made that investment, because we'd all reap the benefits from it. I believe that the funding formula for our schools is completely wrong. I believe that we need to figure out what the budget needs to be for educating our kids. We need to provide them with the schools and the tools to do it. And then every school would receive the same amount of funding per pupil across the country. And take that off our property tax rolls, because that's the responsibility that needs, the funding needs to come down that way. This is what I was talking about, equitable funding between schools that have high property values and schools that don't have high property values. So this is what I believe in, what I would advocate for, and I think we would go a long way in bettering our education system by following that formula. Don't know if you agree with it, but that's what I believe.
I moved, so you wouldn't recognize me?
Bring me for a second.
What do you think is the federal role, or should it be, in providing public education in the light of this whole push to privatize education, charter schools and colleges? Does the federal government have some kind of role to stand up and say, no, public education is a right of citizens?
I think I just said that, and people are up in arms and really concerned about these Common Core standards. I don't know about you, but I believe standards are good, and I believe raising the bar and having people meet them and achieve them is good. And my understanding is you can improve upon those at a state level, but at least you're meeting a minimum that we can all agree to, and I think that should be implemented in all 50 states. So we're not losing ground to other countries and educating their population, because it's critical. I mean, that's how you move a society forward, is through education and building upon those building blocks. So did I answer your question? Pretty much.
You kind of did, but I'm still concerned about the privatization of the effort to totally privatize our educational system.
Yeah, I think there's been a big push with that here in Wisconsin. And vouchers I'm opposed to, because it's draining valuable resources from public schools. And I don't believe in creating inequity in somebody's ability to get an education. And I think that does that. We're subsidizing wealthy people's private education for the kids. Doesn't sit right.
Well, you're also taking money out of our education budget and putting it somewhere else so that most of the kids can get it. I just want to point out that when Thomas Jefferson did the Louisiana Purchase thing, he said that in every
And Senator Durkee, one of the senators from Wisconsin, was a big advocate for public education who used to live in Kenosha. He fought for it. And I would, my wife is a college professor, as you know, and my stepmother was a teacher. And it was always instilled in us that education is important. And I feel fortunate that I was able to get an education and had that opportunity. The next question is, what do you think should be done about the lack of funding in transportation? Funds on, I think that's what that says. Lack of funding the transportation fund. Okay. Yeah, transportation is critical. Unfortunately, sometimes the transportation bills are just filled with a lot of pork, which is a shame. I know Paul Ryan has always said that he's against earmarking, and that's why we haven't had a lot of Macon coming back to the district. A lot of money flowing back here, and Wisconsin only receives about 80 cents of every dollar it sends to Washington, D.C. And he has always been opposed to earmarking, I think for political reasons, but also because he didn't agree with the system. Because you have to put your name on it, you have to be front and center in it and requesting those funds, and he didn't want to do that. Until you have a better system in place, it is the only one you have to bring money back to your district and to bring funds for critical projects that you need to have. I think most of you remember the debate he had with Joe Biden when they were talking about the ARA funds, American Reinvestment Act, where Joe Biden wanted to hold up the piece of paper where Paul Ryan had requested the funds after criticizing the Reinvestment Act. But he couldn't do it. I have no problem requesting earmarks and fighting for funds to come back to our district for projects that would put people back to work and fully funding the transportation bill, as long as these projects have merit and value. I mean, again, you don't want it to see it going to ridiculous things like millions of dollars for your bridge to nowhere. I mean, that's a good example. But if it economically makes sense and it's not wasteful with taxpayers' dollars, then I would be supportive of this.
On the railroad that Walker put down, it cost a lot of money, really big for jobs. Like from Milwaukee to, where was it gonna be? Well, Milwaukee to the Twin Cities.
Yeah, we've gone all the way up,
They need
right?
all the big cities, other countries, rail, they're making all the time. We're behind that. We need the rail.
We are, and
I-90 is a good example. They can't get that third lane quick enough because you get in the traffic. I mean, you're sitting for an hour to go about 10 miles on 90. You get in that, it's not good.
no, I'm a big proponent of rail. And when people ask like, oh, what would you like to see happen? They're kind of actually shocked by what I'd say. If I could wave my magic wand and be king and have it all happen. I actually would like to see, in Chicago, they have the L, and when you get to the heart of the city, it's called the Loop. And it's a track that goes around the downtown area. Well, I would like to see a loop in southeast Wisconsin that would go from Kenosha over to Janesville with a spur down to Beloit. They would go up to Madison, over to Milwaukee, and back down to Kenosha.
Yes.
And that is a tool for economic growth like you would not believe. Because after you have those, maybe you have a stop at Lake Geneva, so it's a quick trip from Kenosha to Lake Geneva, and then Lake Geneva, maybe another stop or two before you hit Janesville. And then you have a quick train that goes up to Madison. Can you imagine how much of an economic engine that would be for southeast Wisconsin?
People that don't drive, they just love it.
Yeah. I mean, when you're in Chicago, you get around almost everywhere through either the use of the Metro or the L. It's the same in DC. And DC has some of the worst traffic in the world. It's still, but you know what? The Metro in DC is constantly packed. Whenever I go there, I'm amazed at how many people use it. So you have to have this kind of vision and these kind of big plans and push for them. And maybe not all of it happens, but maybe get some of it done, and that's the beginning. I was really disappointed when Walker canceled the rail between Milwaukee and Madison, and I was really upset when we didn't get the KRM to go from Kenosha to Racine to Milwaukee. Because, my wife and I take the Metro into Chicago all the time. And we would have done that with the train up to Milwaukee too. But, mass transportation is an economic engine and a worthwhile investment. What is your position on the pipeline issue? If we're talking about the Keystone, I'm adamantly opposed to it, and would not support it. I know there's a new issue coming up with this Wisconsin pipeline.
Enbridge?
Enbridge?
Yeah, yeah, and I'm not up to speed and not familiar with it, so I can't speak to that. Those of you who know me, after I sold my business, in 2008, I dedicated my life to public service. And the way that I started giving back to my community, the first thing I did was I started going door to door advocating for the Great Lakes Compact, trying to get that passed. I felt it was critical. In fact, what motivated me to do that was I got really upset when I read an article about BP Amoco getting special permission to dump more mercury and sludge and waste into Lake Michigan over at their Whiting, Indiana plant in Whiting, Indiana. I couldn't believe that the federal government would just go past the state, that they could apply to dump all the sludge into the lake. This is our fresh drinking water for millions of people, and they're poisoning it. So I got really upset, I got really active, and after running 2 companies and working 80 hours a week, you go from that to doing nothing. When you start canvassing 6, 7, 8 hours a day, people are like, wow, you're a super volunteer. So they eventually asked me to serve on the board of directors for the Wisconsin League of Conservation Owners, which I gladly served as. And then people started encouraging me to get more involved. So I started doing things like fundraising for people I believed in, like Senator Russ Feingold. And then I held a fundraiser for Shirley Abrahamson in my home. Senator Feingold was in my home as well. And people encouraged me to do more. So I ran for county board of supervisors. And, got to know what the local issues were and how you deal with things locally. And what's so nice about being on the county board is a couple things. You get to see the results of the work you put in and what you do. And it's also a non-partisan office. So there's no back and forth between political parties, which is it's really a nice luxury to have. And I highly recommend and encourage anybody to get involved and run for office and serve at a local level, because it is really, really rewarding. And you get to know your neighbors better and hear about their issues. And
County board.
what? County board supervisor here? Yes. Yep.
I got a question about Enbridge, kind of connotation.
Okay.
I've been recently told how we should vote,
You've been told that?
kind of
Okay.
indirectly by Enbridge. We want to support them. If they're tripling their capacity, how much more are they going to pay in taxes in their district? And also, is the oil going to be shipped to Japan? Where's it going to go? We're sending it south.
Yeah. These are questions that I cannot answer. Like,
I know you can't answer what I'm saying, but there's questions.
Good question, though, yeah. And I forgive me for not acknowledging our elected representatives who are here tonight, those who are seeking office, Peter, anybody else? County board supervisors, school board, firefighters are here. Thank you guys for showing up. It's a great group of people to be with tonight, so thank you all for coming, and thanks for running for office and serving.
What can I do?
Yes.
Enbridge is going through Wisconsin, I think, this is from where Lake, up to the Superior area, coming down, going through, Curry Woods Golf Course. There, goes under the Rock River at some point. I mean, it's here, it's in our area. Yeah, and they're gonna push that much more stuff through it, and it's all kind of gooey, icky stuff that, and they're just gonna push that much more. How much more likely is it
To leak
to
and
leak
spill.
and so on?
These are great questions and great concerns, and we're hearing about it now. Obviously, I need to familiarize myself better with this particular issue, because it sounds like it could be an environmental catastrophe waiting to happen.
Oh, yeah.
That's fine.
And you know about the record is pretty bad.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, so that's another thing to keep in mind. This will be a hot issue for us.
Okay.
And we'd like to request an environmental impact statement from you.
Okay, we've got a few more minutes and I'm getting short on time. Do you think suing the president? I sure hope it backfires on the Republicans. When I came in and I talked to Roger, I said, you know, for a party that doesn't like lawyers, they don't like litigation, and they don't like frivolous lawsuits, they sure do a hell of a lot of it. So yeah, I will just have to wait and see how this ball bounces. Two more. You know, I'm really excited. I got to share something with you. My wife became a U.S. citizen this past month. And, yeah. Well, I'm so excited as I finally can have a family member vote for me. Okay, XL pipeline we already talked about. In Wisconsin, GOP is restricting early voting periods. Yes. What can we do about it? Nothing right now. I see iwillvote.com is a new website that may, oh, interesting. I'm not familiar with iwillvote.com, but maybe it's something we should all check out. There's been a lot of back and forth with what they can do with voting, what they can't do with voting. Regardless of what's decided, they have created enough uncertainty regarding the process that this is a problem. This is a problem. We cannot disenfranchise people. And by changing the laws and making the environment uncertain as to when you have early voting, when you can register, when SDRs can register people. I mean, is everybody here registered to vote? Okay, great. Oh, yeah. Not yet, but when you're able to, please do.
He said this is like social studies class. Only it's better.
We need more participation in democracy, not less. And please.
It's a question in addition to lifting the cap on Social Security. One of the problems that exists is the indexing has been set on 1955 or 56 figures of cost of living, things that were purchased.
Yeah.
And would you support revising that, taking a look at that and trying to make it more reflective of 2014?
Well, sure. I mean, if it's, we need to figure out what's the best formula to make sure it works the best for the most people. I mean, it's the simplest way to say it for me. And I think most people can agree with that. You know, I know that's what they were talking about with the change CPI was going to be adjusting the formula for the cost of living, and it would actually be decreasing and making it worse for senior citizens, and that's why I was never supportive of change CPI with Social Security. And you have to be really careful because sometimes Democrats even talk about things in a way that may sound good, but aren't. And again, with the TPP and our president supporting it, I don't know what he's thinking or why he's supportive of it, because it's certainly things that I do not agree with. So, you know, when you hear change CPI, make sure you're really getting into the details about what these proposals mean to people and to us. Because, you know, Paul Ryan says, hey, I've written a balanced budget that, you know, we get all of our financial problems solved in 10 years. I don't think people would really like to have that budget implemented when they saw when they would see the practical costs of implementing it. And we have a critical election this fall. The power of the Senate, the balance of the Senate rests at about four Senate seats. And if you